the answer to that question, but maybe one of you's got a better idea. And if you have, get involved in the consultation process and tell us what it is. Because what we're looking for here is a better vision. And we need your help. So I'm just going to go quickly around the outside now. So the first thing is the living Waldorf pedagogy. So that's kind of ground zero for what our vision is all about. So what we've been doing with that is unpacking what we mean by living Waldorf pedagogy. And not going into endless amounts of detail, just trying to get at the key principles. What is it? It's a great question. If you're interested in it, come to the consultation workshop where you'll have an opportunity to engage with each other and with us about how to further articulate and develop the key principles that express what a living Waldorf pedagogy actually means. And then there's extraordinary staff, and there is a massive challenge with staff for us in this school. And it's not just in this school, it's not just in this country, it's worldwide, which is the absence or the decline in experienced Steiner School teachers. And obviously if you're a Steiner school, then the gold dust in the school is, experienced and very able Steiner School teachers. So what we've got to be able to do is bring extraordinary teachers in from the outside, from this big wide world, who don't necessarily know anything about Steiner education, and have them become experienced Steiner teachers over time. That means we have to be a teaching school, and that creates a big demand, because teaching itself is a huge job, just by itself. But then if you say you're an experienced teacher, we not only want you to teach, we don't want to take you out of the classroom, we're too small to afford to anyway, but we need you to mentor and guide and educate other teachers. Then we just put a whole lot extra load on you. So there's a big challenge for us as a school to hang on to people who are experienced for as long as we can, treat them really, really well, and provide conditions that support and enable them to pass on what they know to other people as they're coming in. And as a community, the challenge is also to accept the truth, the reality that we can't have experienced Steiner School teachers at every level. It's just not a real expectation. There's nothing we can do about it. We can hope for it and wish for it, but we can't make it into reality. So there's challenges in there, and if you're interested, again, come along, help us figure it out. Learning by doing in the kindergarten, I think that's fairly self-explanatory, but I think the crucial thing with the kindergarten and the lower school, and the board and the trust in particular, were thinking about this, was that this is the gesture for that part of the school. We're thinking that in 20 years from now, what's going on in the kindergarten and the lower school is going to be quite similar to what's there today. They're timeless environments. We're going right back, and there's something to protect. We're being really careful about protecting that. National Standards was a great example about what we're willing to do to protect it. And it's not the only thing that we're going to need to protect those parts of the school against. There are various educational philosophies. We're an integrated school. There are things that are going on in the wider world that are great, and we'll have them, but there are other things which are not so helpful, and we have to put a boundary in. So that's the big challenge there. But I think there's also, for you as parents, to understand the pedagogy, the things that are actually going on in the kindergarten and the lower school really deeply. My sense is that there's lots of opportunities to deepen that understanding together and really get clear about what it is that we're actually doing in those parts of the school. The lower school, love of learning, central. Obviously, we want our children to come to school, to want to come to school. We want them to want to come to school, not just to play with their friends, not just to play with their friends. We obviously want that as well, but we want them to love to learn. We want them to come, and that awakening where the love of learning is present is central to the work of the lower school. So we're articulating again in the vision what it is that we actually mean by that. Middle school is a big transition, and I don't think there's a lot of awareness, there hasn't been even in our school, but let alone in the community, about this sort of alchemical kind of, because if you think of the lower school, you think that's sort of timeless, and then you think the high school, that's very contemporary. It has to be very contemporary because our students go out into the world as it is, and that world is moving and changing really quickly, so we have to prepare them to enter that world in the high school. And then in the middle school, there's a transition between those two, and it's really, really important that we get it right. And there's an enormous amount of work going on in our school to try and understand what does that actually mean. So we've summed that up by independence in learning. Students are beginning to learn to be able to independently manage their own learning. It's obviously not the same as just loving to learn. So come along if you're interested in contributing to a better understanding what that means and what our vision is for that. High school, self-actualizing learners. So I've absorbed a lot, and now I've got to bring it out into my life in ways that are meaningful to me if I'm a high school student. So it's the ability to actualize what it is that you're learning for yourself in your life. And I think one of the things that, this phrase came from one of our senior teachers, at first I didn't get it. Because I think it's very easy to sort of think they've got a finished product. When you get to class 12, they say it all comes together, and I believe that's true, but they're not finished. They're just at the beginning. And so the idea of the capacity for self-actualization is to have a whole lot of possibilities at the end of school and some capacity to embody those possibilities. So that's really what the image is, the leading image for the high school. So again, come along if you're interested in delving into that territory. Last couple of things, vibrant community and campus. So I think the campus is pretty amazing, but it's not necessarily being utilised as much as it could be. This is an amazing community resource. Someone made the comment not that long ago that churches used to be the centre of communities in this country and then around the world. They're not really the centre of the community anymore, so what is? And then I think someone out of the kindergarten suggested, well, actually, it's schools. And how much are they? How much is that really happening? And what's the possibilities there? Well, I think we have got a strong community here, but it's not really strong on this campus yet. I think there are lots of possibilities, and obviously those possibilities aren't going to come to life if you don't get involved and help us understand what they are and how to articulate them. So that's what that workshop is all about. Last but not least, financial resilience. There's a dilemma there. So the dilemma is quite practical. And some people have, the word has got out from the board and the trust that we've got financial challenges. I'm not making any secret of that. We have. There's a reason why we've got financial challenges. We've been trying to promote access to this school for people who have limited resources, because we believe that's part of the philosophy of the school. You try and make it as accessible to anyone who wants a Steiner education as possible. Try not to put up barriers. So that's obvious, and we've run down our reserves in doing that, and we have to face the reality that we can't keep doing it in the future, and we have to change. So that's one side. And I'm not saying mea culpa or anything. I'm actually quite happy that our heart forces as a governance body in the school led us to go in that direction. I make no apology for that, but we then have to face reality. There are two things about reality when it comes to the money. I'm just going to talk about the deeper one for me, which is about excellence in Steiner education. I think every one of you wants excellence in Steiner education in the school. Excellence requires resources. Resources take money. So there's a tension in there between maximising access and delivering excellence. There's no right answer to that. It's always a tension, there's always a balance. And there's real work to do with you to understand our way through that. So if you've got anything to contribute in that area, please come along. So that's a little summary of the vision. Mike is now going to tell you a little bit about the process we're going to go through.
Thank you, Mark. Most of you know me actually, so my name's Michael Schneider. I've got two lovely kids at the school. I've got Dylan in class 2 with Fatima and Amber with Bill Cook in class 6. And so I was involved with the national standards thing when we had that, what would you call it, that affront to our system really, and got involved and with this wonderful group of parents that were active and getting out there and really helped us pretty much win that. Well, I mean, obviously the community won the battle, but we were there kind of guiding you and helping. And so the trust came along or Mark came along and suggested, look, we have this vision and we really need help with how do we fire up the community, how do we get their feedback. So we kind of went away and thought, okay, it sounds like a good next challenge. But with that, we came up with a few ideas of where it might be an issue. We had issues with the fact with communication that sometimes you'll note that the school gives out communication, we give some feedback and it doesn't seem to come, we don't hear it, it disappears into the ether. But so one of our strong things as a group was that we wanted that not to happen. So we want to make sure that there's a feedback loop so that you know that you've been heard, which is, I think underpinned communication. I mean, otherwise it's just talking. And so that was what our strong, one of the strong drivers in helping with designing this whole process. So we've been involved for, how long has it been now? A few months, just like that, or a month and a half, something like that. April. Yeah. With meetings pretty much every week. working hard on the designing process and actually coming up, with how we're going to talk about this, how much effort needs to be put in, and you'll see that there's actually going to be quite a bit of talking, quite a bit of effort. And one thing I want to make clear is that this is the only time that it will be kind of one way, so everything's going to be based where we will have experts give the rundown on where we're at and position ourselves, and so that everyone then will have the opportunity to break into groups, and maybe it's a case of choosing what the priorities are on that particular thing, whether it is financial resilience or whatever it is. So you say, okay, what are the 5 most important things that we agree as a group? And then we go away in workshops and you'll work on those and discuss those, and then come back as small groups and present, and then maybe better it, build it that way. So that's kind of like the workshop format type thing. So the draft, now the other thing I just want to go over, and again, and Mark's been over already, but the draft vision is an awful lot of work's gone into that. So, I mean, it's astounding how much work, obviously lots of people's time, voluntary time and all that kind of stuff, from the college, from the board, from the trust, and obviously from earlier from some of the comments that we got. But as I said, it could be so much better, and it's really also getting that community on board. And part of getting that community on board is really, one of the metaphors that we came up with was, if you imagine a school as a bus, okay, and a house bus springs to mind, but maybe that's the hippie side of me. And really, when we go on that trip, we really need to agree on a destination first. So that's critical and important, because really, otherwise, where are we going? And so that's what this vision is agreeing on what's important to us and all that type of stuff. So then from there on, all decisions can be based and guided by that shared vision of a destination. So if you can't remember that it will be the compass. This document, in the end, when it's finally presented, will be the compass that all those important decisions as a school will be made. So, and it must be difficult, I imagine, for the board and everyone at the moment, if they don't really have that. I mean, they've got their own thing, but if they don't have that guiding document, it must be pretty hard. So, right, so now the workshop process. Actually, I'll go through some of these dates, sorry. So, as you can see, we got together Aprilish. We've been through a bit of the process of designing this process, which included this introduction. And now we're basically up to June, where we're holding these. This is the last introduction meeting. We actually held 8 in total. Is it 8? 7? Sorry, I'm ahead of myself. 7, and why so many? Well, again, one of the big things that we came up with was, if you hold one meeting, people can't make it to one meeting, we're all busy. So we really tried to make it as accessible as everyone, because this is, we believe, pretty important, vitally important. So we wanted to make sure that everyone had the opportunity to come. Now, everyone won't have the opportunity to come, and that's one of the reasons we're actually videoing this, so because there is actually websites, which will be michaelparkvision.info, which is live and up after some issues. And so the video of this, and actually of the introductions and the summaries of all the workshops, will be online. So if for whatever reason, if you're overseas or whatever and you can't make it, we still want to make it accessible so that you feel you're part of it, and you can still give your informed feedback, because that's what we're looking for. Now, with the whole, so we hold the workshops, which is next term. Then in October there will be a report back, so again it's kind of like you've been heard. This is how we now see that your input has been included in bettering the vision, but that will still be at a draft stage because it still might need a bit of tweaking and stuff. And in December there will be a launch of the vision, and that's kind of going to be a celebration and a party and a coming together to try and help with that whole community thing, which is, I'm not sure on the design of that, but it's sounding good. It'll be quite amazing. So, right, next one. So, here are the workshops. Now, with the workshops, you'll notice